Hi everyone, welcome to the video on how to crack XAT for 2025. Now, I'm sure most of y'all, either have done excellent at CAT or are disappointed with your CAT, are still looking forward to XAT. The ones who have done well at CAT also should look forward to XAT, and the ones who haven't done well at CAT should obviously look forward to XAT. Either way, XAT is a very, very important test because not only is it accepted by XLRI, it is also accepted by a lot of other institutes, means approximately 160 other institutes accept the XAT scores. Now, and that is why it is a very big surprise when I see that the number of registrations that are very, very low, roughly approximately 1.5 lakhs compared to the 3.2 lakhs for CAT. So I believe all those students who are still on the borderline, and if they see this video today or tomorrow, they should definitely register for XAT and give it a try, because XAT no longer has remained a very, very, very difficult exam. There was a time in 2011-12 when XAT was very difficult, and it was the Quant especially was so difficult that only very good engineers could crack it. But that's not true anymore. XAT Quant also has become pretty manageable and can be cracked by a lot of other people also, which we will be discussing today. Now, obviously, the test is happening on 5th Jan 2025 and it is online from 2018. Now, let's look at the test structure first, because there's a major change over here. Not a major change, but there's a change over here, and you need to definitely know this change. Okay, that's compared to 2023, there is a change. Now, Part A, there are still two parts to the test. Part A, which is now 170 minutes, last year it was 175 minutes, is 170 minutes, and that 170 minutes will have basically 26 questions of VALR, 21 questions of decision making, and 28 questions of QADI. I will be discussing each section in detail as we go ahead later. And I'm sure you've heard of this, that there is XAT obviously has negative marking. So there is positive 1 and negative 0.25. So that's because there are 5 options, the negative is 0.25, okay, not 0.33 like CAT. So positive 1 and negative 0.25, but there's also one more part to the negative marking, that in Part A, after the first 8 unattempted questions, please understand, after the first 8 unattempted questions, there is a negative 0.1 for every question after that which is unattempted. Now this part, let me first clarify and give you a thought process of how you should be tackling this part. Lot of students, because of this negative marking, start attempting questions which they are not sure of. They think, oh, I'm going to get negative 0.1 anyways if I don't attempt it. Let me get a negative 0.25. It is worth trying. No, it is not. Understand, look at the number of questions. We have what? 68, 60, 70, 75 questions approximately, right? That should be the number of questions this year also. So if I have 75 questions, out of which I will be genuinely, because it's a 170 minutes test, I'll be attempting at least 35-40 questions. Okay, whether I'll get some wrong, some right, I'll be attempting 35-40 questions. Now, if you start attempting extra questions because of this negative 0.1, what will happen? Suppose you've attempted already 40 questions, another 8 questions, so 48 questions, so 27 questions. Now, for those 27 questions, if you start worrying that I'll get a negative 0.1 and you attempt more questions, I'm sure you're going to have more negative. It's okay if you get negative 0.1 over there, right? That is the logic, that even if you get a 2.7 or 3 marks negative, you have to count that within your, when you start attempting questions, and say, I might get a 2.5 negative for not attempting enough questions, and that is okay. Please do not fret over that and do not have unnecessary attempts over here, because if you attempt even 5 questions wrong because of this, your negative is going to become negative 1.25, right? So don't do this and let this just pass away and don't even think about this. You make your attempts as per what you would have made as a normal test. Okay. What about Part 2? Part 2 is the part where there is change this year. Part 2 or Part B as they call it will be 10 minutes, and there will be only GK sections over here. Number of questions in GK also have gone down. It is now 20 questions, out of which static GK is 12 questions. They clearly mentioned this time that static GK, that is GK over the last 10 years, 15 years, or whatever it could be, is 12 questions, and current affairs is going to be 8 questions. We'll be discussing each section. So what is the major change over here? There is no essay over here. The essay has been removed over here, and it can, for anyway, the essay was to be evaluated only by XLRI, and that will happen during the GDPI round. So please remember, right now you don't need to prepare for essay, and that itself can save you a day or two of preparation time. And say if you would have spent writing even 10 essays, one essay evaluating, writing it would have taken you 1 hour. So those 10-15 hours which you got extra, you can easily put back into your preparation for XAT for the other 3 sections, right? Let's talk about the percentile cutoffs for first BM, that is XLRI BM, what is the cutoffs. Now the cutoffs also have changed a lot. Last year, most of these cutoffs were around the 75 percentile. I'm talking about the sectional cutoffs. The sectional cutoffs were around 75 percentile. And for example, the engineer male cutoff was 95 percentile overall. Non-engineer male was around 94, 93. All that has gone up. So please remember, this year don't target 75 as your sectionals, but minimum 85 as your sectionals, because this is what they've told this year. What if they increase it a little bit next year higher? So make it that way. See, it also has got to do with more number of people writing the test. As number of people increase writing the test, this cutoffs are bound to go up in terms of percentile, because say 25% of 1 lakh is 25,000, but 15% of 1.5 lakh become, or 15% of 160 will become that much, more or less equal to that number, and hence that percent, as more people write the test, that percentile cutoffs will go up, right? Let's look at the, so I hope you've taken a screenshot of this part and you've looked at this properly. For XLR IBM, these are the cutoffs. Okay, now if I look at for HRM, the cutoffs are slightly lower. The overall cutoff is at 95 for engineer male, but it has gone, it was 96 earlier. So obviously it is slightly lower over here. For females, the cutoffs are much lower. In fact, for non-engineer females, for HRM, the cutoffs are much lower compared to males. Now, coming to score versus percentile, which is very, very important. Now, this is what you really, really need to concentrate on. And this is last year. I'm talking about XAT 2024. Understand that this data was not provided by XAT, and we have, based on all those mark sheets which we have collected from students, we have kind of calculated the score. So it might be 1 mark here and there, but otherwise mainly this is the cutoffs, score versus percentile cutoff. Now let me explain this to you. First, that XAT 2024 compared to XAT 2023 was a slightly more difficult test. That number which you can hover on is 35. The score of 35 gets you a 99 percentile. That last year was close to 46 for XAT 2024, and XAT 2025, XAT 2024 it was 45, and now it has become nearly, it is only 35. So that has fallen by nearly 11 marks. That's a big number, right? And for every section you can see the fall. Now if you look at, if the paper is anything to do with, is like anything like last year's paper, those cutoffs did not change too drastically for verbal and DM, but has changed mainly for QA. So what I was trying to tell you is that QA definitely was slightly difficult last year compared to XAT 2024, XAT 2023. XAT 2024 was slightly more difficult. Let's see how 2025 comes out to be. So you can again look at what are the scores required. So if we were looking at the 85 percentile mark, what is the 85 percentile mark? You notice that you need only 5 marks in QA, 9 marks in VA and LR, and 9 marks in DM. Now this is why XAT becomes a very important test for somebody who is weak at one section. Now, I always have been saying this for so many years, last 15, 17 years, I've been talking to people when they want to write the XAT and so on. So I always have this one thought process that suppose if you're a student who's weak at Quant, but very good with the other two sections, then you will not be able to clear the CAT cutoffs maybe, but the XAT cutoff will be very easy to clear, because say you require only 5 marks over there. And 5 marks is 5 questions in a good 1 hour, close to 1 hour, should be easily possible. And that is how you should look at XAT. Same way, if you're weak at verbal but good at Quant, I think it's an excellent test for you to write, right? A lot of engineers who are good at Quant and weak at verbal, excellent test for you to write, because 28 questions in Quant. If you spend a little bit more time, the average time we advise is 45 minutes first, or 50 minutes. That will make up 150 minutes. You still have 20 minutes. You either put that on your weakest section so that you can clear the cutoff, or you put it on your best section that you can maximize your score. So after 50 minutes in each section, if you feel, because what happens here, that there is no separate time for each section, and because there is no separate time for each section, sometimes it is advantage also, and sometimes it is a disadvantage. Disadvantage is sometimes that you can keep doing one section and not realize that you have used up a lot more time, and the advantage is that the advantage will be that hence you can always maximize your score through your best section, or you can go back to your weakest section and manage to clear your cutoff. So that should be the plan. Either you manage your cutoff or maximize your score, or do both during that 170 minutes. So I was just telling, for somebody who's a good engineer with good Quant background, it's an excellent test to write. 28 marks in Quant plus DI, which is not very difficult. Means if you're an excellent student of Quant, you can even get a score of 24, 25 over here. Definitely possible, right? If you get a 24, 25 and if you manage to clear the cutoff for the other two, you are definitely going to reach 99 percentile. And that I would say is a pretty decent way of reaching 99. Just like, let's take an example last year. If you had scored even 20 in Quant, which would have been a good score, and if you had managed your cutoffs in the other two sections, 20 plus 9 in VLR 29 and 9 in DM, that is 38, you would have gone above 99 percentile and would have had all the calls. And that is why it becomes a very nice test to write. Okay, so please go through this, plan your best section accordingly and work on it. Now, overall strategy, as I said, 170 minutes, no sectional time limits. Sectional cutoffs are present, we just spoke about them. Spare around 45 to 50. 45 is also a good time, but 45 to 50 minutes on each of the three sections. Spend the remaining extra time on either trying to clear the cutoff as I spoke to you, or on your best section to maximize the overall score. We already discussed this, so I've just gone through this a little bit quickly. Next part. What is the practice you need to do from here till XAT? You have approximately 40 days, right? Maybe a little bit more than 40 days, but approximately 40 days, 40, 45 days, whatever you have. What are the things you need to do? Obviously, first you need to prepare a little bit extra, okay? Because the first thing which you will need to really put time on the decision making section. Put good time on the decision making section because it's a new section. You haven't done that up till now. I will be discussing a little bit about it. Now, what all do we give you in terms with IMS? We give you 5 full-length IMS mock cards, 3 sectional decision-making tests, so 3 separate tests only for decision-making, which will be really good. Last 4 years video solutions, okay, this is where you will find last 4 years video solutions of all the XAT papers, the GK compendium, which will help you for GK, and 5 XAT masterclass. Now, what about GK? Should you really put a lot of effort on GK? Yes, you should put, but it should not be too much. Why? Because finally, very frankly, if there is static GK could be from anywhere in the last 20 years, anywhere they can keep asking you. Very difficult for you to prepare. Yes, you should work on the first 8 questions of current affairs. Read for the next 40 days, read newspapers regularly, because last year they even had questions as close as January 1st. So 7 January was that, and some event which had happened on 1st January also they had put it in the paper. So which means keep reading till the last day, and maybe current affair you can still work on getting those 8 questions right, and we'll talk about GK, what are the cutoffs and so on and so on. But right now, this is the amount of things you have. We have 5 XAT masterclass also. You should be attending those and having a look at those also. So this will be the amount of data work you have. What are the areas you really need to work on? I would work on decision making and also verbal, because the RC and the critical reasoning in verbal is slightly more heavy, definitely compared to the CAT. Now, let's talk about the VALR section. First thing, it has 26 questions. No LR like CAT. Now, a lot of people over here reading the word LR think it is logical reasoning like CAT. It will have sets of arrangements or whatever. Please understand that's not it. They have called it logical reasoning, but it has got nothing to do with the logical reasoning of CAT. It is completely a verbal section. Okay. 14 reading comprehension questions, roughly 4 sets. Okay. 12 to 14. They sometimes have 3 questions per set, sometimes 4 and so on. 4 RC passages with 3 questions each and 1 poem with 2 questions. So 4 of them are RCs with 3. Now, the poem difficulty level keeps varying. So please do not just skip it thinking it's a poem, it will always be difficult. So for example, last year in 2024 XAT, the poem was difficult. But 23 XAT, the poem was very easy. The 2 questions were very straightforward. So again, it is not necessary that the poem will always have 2 questions. It could have 3 questions also. This is last year's data. There will definitely be inference-based questions. So work on that very well. Work on critical reasoning a lot. You can also look at some critical reasoning from GMAT material that will also help you over here. Also understand, because you have more RCs to read, right? Hence the amount of time which you will take up will also be higher. But XAT normally time should not be a big issue, because 170 minutes is a lot of time, and especially when you're used to only 120 for CAT, you suddenly have that 50 minutes extra with around 75 questions in all. I think it is a pretty manageable in terms of time. Now, 12 ability or reasoning questions. The average level of difficulty, we call it as medium over here, out of which 5 are critical reasoning questions, which I told you is very important. Critical reasoning also helps you in the DM section, because finally The DM section is also all reasoning. Yes, there is, I'll talk about it when I come to the decision making section. 2 parajumble questions, 5 options, 1 fill in the blanks, 3 blanks, and 3 grammar questions. So this is the place where you can score. The 3 grammar questions or the parajumbles are the ones where you can really score well. Critical reasoning, depending on how strong you are with it, you will be able to do well or not. But that is how you should work on the verbal section. The verbal section, we also have some masterclass for verbal, so you should attend those and solve those 5 XAT mocks as well as the last year papers. It will really help you sharpen your verbal over here, or at least make you understand what kind of verbal is expected in the XAT, so that suddenly you don't have a shock on the last day. Let's talk about the cutoff. The 85 percentile was lasted at 9 marks. It could be anywhere between 8 to 10, 7 to 11. Again, look at the test, see how difficult it is on that day, and try and have more questions. Like XAT 23, the quant was pretty easy, so somebody had to really make those extra attempts to get that good score. Over here, a number of attempts can be 15 to 17, and with 45 to 50 minutes, you should be able to definitely do that easily, comfortably. Only verbal is your weak section. I would advise you to give it a little bit more time to clear your cutoff, or unless it's a very strong section, I want to give it time so that you can maximize scores through verbal. Now, let's talk about the main part, the decision-making section. Now, this section is unique only to XAT. No other test, no other MBA or institute, college exam tests you on decision-making. Now, what is decision-making? Let's try and understand. First of all, there will be 3 questions each in one set. So, totally 21 questions, and there are 7 sets. Now, that itself is a lot, to think that, oh, wow, there are 7 sets. Yes, you'll have to be a little bit fast. Your reading will have to be faster. And that carries forward from verbal also. Even verbal, your reading will have to be faster than general reading, which you have for CAT. Now, what are the type of questions they ask? Mainly, it is ethical dilemma or business decisions. Now, let's talk about ethical dilemma. What is ethical dilemma? Now, somewhere, whether you're on the right side of ethics or not, would you bribe somebody to reach college on time so that you don't miss a lecture? Would you bribe a policeman on the road? Well, that's an ethical dilemma. You want to reach college on time, should you bribe? No, obviously not. So most of the ethical dilemma questions, always remember, you always remain on the right side of ethics unless you are saving somebody's life or something like that. Same way, would you bribe a policeman if you had to reach somewhere is that you could save somebody's life? Yes, you should bribe the policeman because you're going to save a life, which is very important, or at least tell the policeman that you're going to do that, and hence maybe let you go. So those are the things, remember, ethical dilemma. And that is not true over here. Maybe you found somebody cheating in college or in office. How do you handle that? Do you complain to HR, not complain to HR? Or there was some kind of, somebody in your office environment who is picking up small things from office thing, maybe some stationery and something and all that. Is he taking that? Is that right? Is that wrong? That's an ethical dilemma question. These are all ethical dilemma questions. Similarly, what are business decision questions? What is the best decision you're making for your business? So always in these questions, start thinking, what would you do if it was your business? Take calls like that. Lot of time the answer options over here are very close, and between 2 options always, lot of students start choosing the wrong options because something which sounds right to us might not be technically correct, and hence maybe it is right on one day and not right on the other day. It could be very differently perceived by 2 different people. So always be very careful with these questions. No mathematical DM has been asked since the last 4 years. So very frankly, I don't think so that will come. But if it comes, it should be more like DI. So you should be able to manage it. It's not a very big issue. Now, understand that the number of attempts that you need in decision making always will have to be slightly higher. Maybe even 6 sets you'll have to attempt. Why? Because accuracy in this section is always low. I have rarely seen somebody with a very, very good score in decision making. But if you can manage to clear the cutoff, don't think that, oh, I need 9 marks for cutoff, so I'll solve exactly 3 sets, 9 questions, really well attempted. I have taken a lot of time, spent 15 minutes on one set, and I will get all right. That doesn't work. Because as I said, it might be right for one person, it might not be right for the other person. So there's always going to be a debate. Something which you really feel strong about, that this is definitely right, might turn out to be wrong. So always have that buffer, attempt extra questions in decision making, and hope to clear the cutoff. If you are finding it difficult to clear the cutoff in the designated 45-50 minutes which you have given over here, or you feel that reaching 6 sets over here is difficult, give that extra 10 minutes over here and clear the cutoffs over here. There is no point getting a good 99 percentile overall and missing the DM cutoff by a mark or 2. right? If you're very good at Quant and say out of 28 you got a 25, you are definitely going to reach 99 percentile, because you'll do something at verbal, you'll do something at decision making, you'll reach 99 percentile. But then what's the point if you have missed the cutoff in the one of the other two sections? So please be very careful about this and clear cutoffs in all sections. The cutoffs are low, and hence this becomes very important over here. Let's come to QA and DI, which is my favorite section. 28 questions in all. So last year again there was a change compared to last year. So even 22, what happened that they had 4 sets of DI and approximately 16 to 18 questions of Quant and around 12 questions in DI. 23, they changed that. They had 22 questions of Quant and only 6 questions in DI, 2 sets. 24, again that changed. 4 DI sets in XAT 24, total of 11 questions, with 1 set having only 2 questions. 17 QA questions, including 1 data sufficiency which came from geometry. And sectional LOD, I would call it easy to moderate. Very frankly, as I said, XAT QA has no longer remained very, very difficult. Don't think of it to be the XAT. So, if you have a very senior mentor or a friend who was a friend or a cousin, elder cousin who was at XLRI, will tell you XAT is a very difficult test. Well, maybe he's seen the XAT of 2011, 12 and so on, but the present XAT is not so longer very difficult. So I would suggest that you should take it, especially the Quant section, should take it with a lot more confidence if you are prepared well for CAT. Now, the major change which we saw last year, and this is only last year, it was not there earlier, arithmetic had only 2 questions. But even if it had 2 questions, as I say always about arithmetic, both of them were easy and both of them were straightforward. You could have scored 2 marks definitely over there. Geometry had 3 questions, no easy questions there because data sufficiency was there. Modern maths had 3 questions, 1 very straightforward question from permutation combination. Algebra had approximately 6 questions, 2 easy and 4 medium. Numbers had 3 questions, 2 easy and 1 medium. So numbers, 1 HCF LCM question was very straightforward and so on. So overall 7 easy questions, 7 medium questions and 3 difficult questions, and this is after XAT became difficult last year. Remember this was after XAT became difficult last year. You still have 7 doable questions, and hence even if you have done these 7 questions, you more or less cleared the cutoff and got them right. You would have cleared the cutoff and you still have DI to go. Now, how was DI over here? DI had a total of 11 questions with 4 sets. 2 questions on Venn diagram, very, very, very straightforward. Very simple Venn diagram, very regular 3 conditions Venn diagram. Should have got both the questions correct. 1 questions on mean, median and, that there is so much data, 2 missing values, the median can be here or whatever. Decent set, not very easy, not very difficult. 1 question easy, medium, difficult. Okay, the averages set with cricket in it, where the bowling averages were given, was I thought a very straightforward set if you used your calculations smartly, not the calculator. XAT does not allow you to use a calculator. Everybody please remember this. There is no calculator in XAT, and that is one important thing. And averages, the cricket set, I thought was the easy set. 2 questions were easy, 1 was medium. And the set which was difficult was the one which looked easiest. The one with arithmetic and discounts. People thought that they would be able to crack this set. Definitely was the one actually difficult set, and hence that was a catch in this paper. Also understand, what happens in XAT, especially in QADI or in especially in QADI. What happens is the questions are slightly more longer to read. So please don't leave questions on length. Saying that this question is too long to read, I should leave it. Please don't do that. And that is very important in XAT. You need to understand that very important, that because of the extra time which you have comparatively, the questions are longer and it is okay to read them and spend say 2.5 minutes per question. There's no big deal in that. Let's look at the cutoff for QA and DI. Number of attempts in QA and DI can go up to 18 to 20. Expected cutoff was 20 to 12 marks, which is approximately 80 to 85 percentile. Remember, depending on what you are aiming on, if you are aiming for BM, maybe the QA cutoff is slightly lower, verbal cutoff is higher. Same way if you're aiming for for HR, the QA cutoff is lower and the verbal cutoff is higher. Vice versa for BM, it will be the QA cutoffs will be higher. So please look at your cutoff range for your category and then understand how many questions you need to attempt in that test. Now, overall cutoffs, approximately 24 to 27 for XLRI BM, approximately 20 to 22 for XLRI HRM. Now, this is what I was saying. Just imagine if some very good engineer is attempting this test and can easily score 22 marks in Quant alone, and the cutoff is between 24 to 27 for XLRI BM. If he clears the sectional cutoffs for both the other sections, that is verbal and for decision making, he can easily crack the test. Means if you give 1 hour 20 minutes for quant, you can easily do the whole test properly, the whole quant section properly, and clear the cutoff for the other two sections in that remaining whatever 50, 60 minutes. 1 hour 20 minutes, sorry, I meant. So you still have around 90 minutes left and you can clear the cutoff for the other two sections. You will do very well in this test. So last year 34 plus marks was approximately 99 percentile, and just 34.5 marks was approximately 99 percentile. Okay, let's go ahead. Part B, the GK section. Now GK section, as I already mentioned, it is going to be 20 questions this time instead of 25 questions till last year. There will be exactly 10 minutes for you to solve this. Generally a difficult section, 12 static GK, 8 current affairs sections. No negative marking in the sections. Obviously, you're going to attempt all questions. Now, and the cutoff, good score will be 5 to 6. Now, I have a very simple logic in this. Now, let me explain my logic to you. If you can attempt even, say, get 3 questions right on your own merit, 3 to 4 questions right on your own merit, that means those questions for which you definitely knew the answer. Then, based on probability, suppose if the remaining 15 questions also, if you look at based on probability, if you mark all options as B, 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 then also you should approximately get 3 questions right. Why? Because there is no negative marking and 1/5 is the probability of getting a question right. So hence, if you're attempting 15 questions, you should get another 3 questions right. So at least study that much GK where you're able to score 3 to 4 marks on your own merit. Yes, more the merrier, and understand that the GK section will be looked at only when you're applying to XLRI and not for the other institutes. Right? Let's look at the prep plan summary. Now, work, as I said, on developing verbal ability, because that is very different from, not very different, but slightly more different from CAT. More critical reasoning to do, definitely. RCs, you need to be faster to read because there will be more RCs you need to solve. And parajumbles did not appear in CAT this year. They will appear in XAT maybe, and so on. Second, practice enough decision making. Look at very, very good video solutions. Decision making is something where you will have to actually look at the video solutions, hear the faculty what he's trying to explain and he or she is trying to explain, and then understand that why was this decision taken. Because, and especially this is very important for the college students, people who haven't started working. People who have started working still tend to do better in decision making. But the college students always falter over here, maybe because their thought process is slightly different than the working professional. So please don't just say that, okay, I feel this is the answer, so I should mark it. Give it a proper logical reasoning and then do it. Resources we've already spoken about. There is a XAT workshop for GK. Then we have the MyCat workshops and so on. Practice a bit of GK from here every day. Don't say, okay, I'll do 3 or 4 days of GK. What I would do is maybe spend 1 hour or half an hour or whatever the amount of time I have on GK every day for the next 45 days. That should be a good time to do it. 10 mocks to ace, 5 IMS mocks and 5 past XAT papers. So with that, we come to the end of this video. I hope this has helped you understand things. If you have some queries, you can always mention it in the comments. I'll try and answer them as far as possible. Best of luck, everybody.